Get in on the action this season with Underdog's Pick'em game. Select higher or lower between 2 and 8 players and compete for up to 325 times your entry. Use code DIRECTOR when signing up to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the Director. Chargers fans, we got a fun topic for today. One that, again, probably goes unnoticed, and it might, follow the lines of what the name of this video is going to be. Some of my top sleepers on the Chargers for the 2025 season. Now, what do I mean by sleepers? Well, I think you could categorize that in very many different ways. Some people may say, that Trey Harris might be a sleeper, being, one of those rookies, or you could talk about some guys on defense, Kyle Kennard. What I'm talking about in terms of sleeper is maybe not a lot of people talking about it. Maybe, not getting as much, in terms of prediction of their first year impact or their second year impact or what they're going to be on the team. I think a really good example of that was Scott Matlock a few seasons back. I think a lot of us were thinking he would be a depth piece to this team. I think that season a lot of us were believing that, was it Jordan McFadden was going to be that hybrid fullback? And in the end, it was Scott Matlock that stepped in to be this team's fullback / defensive tackle and made a big, impact with the squad in that season and going forward. Today, I got 10 players that I think could provide that for the Chargers in some capacity, and maybe shine a little light on some of these players that have otherwise not been talked too much about this season so far. So before we do get things started, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog. Use code DIRECTOR to receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Everybody get in on it, baby. Get in on the gimme picks. Gimme picks. Fun time, fun ways, fun days to enjoy yourself, also supporting my platform along the way. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action.
Who's got it better than us?
Into the end zone, Charger fans are witnesses to history.
My top 10 sleepers for the 2025 season on the Los Angeles Chargers. As always, please, guys, follow along and let me know your thoughts on some of these sleepers, as well as some sleepers that I may have missed that you guys want to shine a light on in the season. Let's start off with my number 10. We're going to go 10 to number 1. Players that I think we should be paying a little bit more attention to, some sleepers that may end up having an impact this season, including Brendan Rice. Now, I'm going to say the road for Brendan Rice is a little bit longer than some of the other guys that you're going to see on this list. I think Brendan Rice would require some sort of activation from a practice squad, being elevated into the active 53 at some point in the season to make an impact, in the regular season on the team. Certainly, I see him as a very valuable practice squad member right now, but from what I recall and from what I remember watching him in practice last year, who I was, personally in attendance for, I think Brendan Rice has something there. We don't know quite what it is yet. I was expecting to see a little bit more last year. Of course, we didn't see too much outside of a few games that he was elevated for, just a couple of snaps here and there. But from what I saw, he had great route running, excellent hands, kind of felt like a Josh Palmer light on the squad. And I think there's evidence to suggest that he could become even more. Of course, the son of Hall of Fame wide receiver Jerry Rice, who was in attendance at practice last season, training camp. I have to imagine that Brendan Rice's ceiling secretly might be a lot higher than a lot of us to expect. And I do believe that Brendan Rice has the capacity to break in. Now, again, like I said, the road is a little bit longer. The wide receiver room has a lot of competition all of a sudden, not just by rookies that we drafted this year, which were 2, but also some undrafted guys that are starting to shine at camp as well. Crowded room, but I do think Brendan Rice has the capability to separate himself. At very minimum, you're going to see a very good practice squad member with the maybe potential to be elevated at some point in the season to show off what I felt made him special. Very reliable receiver in terms of hands and route running. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of that last year. He did get a couple opportunities that were more so missed. But I think the elevation this season, or I should say the growth this season, could translate to something a little bit more palatable. All right? Next up, maybe a little bit more talk about this player. And this is where I kind of like went up and down on the list. I was like, is this really a sleeper? Is this really a player people aren't talking about, or a player that people don't have on their radar? Rocket Sanders is who we're talking about next. And yes, this is a player that I hyped up a whole lot. I know there's a lot of guys on social media and in the Chargers, creator circle that were very excited about Rocket Sanders and his potential signing with the squad. Well, it happened. Big reason why a lot of us very excited. The dude's huge. I forget, is he 6'1", 6'2"? Might be even a little bit bigger than that. Big frame as well, as you guys can tell right here. He's a big power back, but he also has a lot of speed behind him too. One of the faster running backs I have seen at his size. I think he ran in the 4.4s if I'm correct, right? Very fast individual, and one that I do think could definitely make it difficult for that running back room and the competition there. And this is something we're actually talking about in my live stream yesterday during Sim Sundays. You guys haven't caught Sim Sundays? It's a good time. We simulate the season in Madden. It's just a fun, get together for fans on Sundays while we wait for NFL kickoff. Anyway, we talked a little bit about Rocket Sanders and the running back room competition this season. We're saying, hey, it actually revolved around me wanting to wait on getting an Amari and Hampton jersey because I felt there might be a chance that, Hassan Haskins gets cut, who is number 28. And then, of course, I would expect, Amari and Hampton to switch back to his college number there. But either way, it's because I believe the running back competition is going to be pretty fierce this year. At the top, of course, you've got Amari and Hampton, Najee Harris. Those guys are locked to make the roster. At 3, who is there? We don't know yet. Is it Kamani Vidal? That's kind of what I'm guessing at this point. And if we roster 4, which is what I'm kind of guessing, it's going to really come down to, in my opinion, Rocket Sanders and Hassan Haskins. And Hassan Haskins, he does have a lot of, special teams upside, which may help him win the fight there. But Rocket Sanders is just a very special talent, and one that I think we were very lucky to sign. I think that if we're left up to, waivers or practice squad signings, that he may be in danger of being added to another squad because he really is an exceptional talent. I think in any other draft class, he would have maybe been a 5th round pick, even 4th, depending on, how needy the position is at the time. But he really is something to build on. Some project player that has a lot of traits that are very rare, very spectacular for a coach to try and build up into something that is a nice depth piece, a rotational piece. And the reason I really like Raheem Sanders or Rocket Sanders is that his size and speed and the way that he plays, a very, very nice backup and almost mix of Najee Harris and Amari and Hampton. He brings that element to the table while also bringing the physicality that you're really looking for from the position. So I think Rocket Sanders, really, really sneaky player to perhaps make the roster. At very minimum, he is an elite practice squad player that the coaches have been raving about him. And I hope he makes the roster so that he doesn't get sniped by another team, because I would fully expect that to be the case. So Rocket Sanders, watch for number 35. As we're getting into training camp. This is a really good training camp preview video as well for you guys wondering who should I be watching, who's battling for a spot. Brendan Rice certainly is. Rocket Sanders, I think, is a true sleeper to actually make the 53 because of his exceptional talent. Next up, a player that maybe was forgotten last season, I think could make an impact this year, maybe due to need a little bit, but also development. There was a big reason why. I remember the day that we drafted him. Coach Harbaugh, was giving us one of these. He was way excited. He had something in Justin Aboigbe that he really loved. And, of course, there were traits that were very reminiscent of some of the defensive players that he had at Michigan. The strength is on another level with Aboigbe. The power. He's got some nice technique to him. But he did feel like he needed some development in terms of polish. And I feel like one season under his belt is going to do some wonders now. In second year, the Chargers are going to need some guys to step up. We signed other players like Naquan Jones, Deshaun Hand. I do think that Justin Aboigbe has an opportunity this season to step in and be a guy on the defensive line to really fill a need. We see a need, we feel a need, and I think Aboigbe has the opportunity to do that this season. Now, outside of speculation, I couldn't tell you because we haven't really heard much about Justin Aboigbe, but when looking at the roster and looking at the opportunity some of these guys are going to have, I don't know if any have as much opportunity as Justin Aboigbe to really step in and show what they got and why they were drafted in 2023 at the time, right? It was 2024. Because it really could bring an element that's missing right now. Morgan Fox is gone. Of course, Puna Ford is gone. That line is going to need, some stepper-uppers. And I think Justin Aboigbe could definitely be one of those sleepers that steps into that position and shows us exactly why Jim Harbaugh was giving us one of these when he was drafted just last year. So watch out for Justin Aboigbe. I think a lot of us forgot about him. I certainly did. But in looking over the list, he seems like one of the players that has the opportunity to be a prime breakout. And not even breakout, but just a contributor. Like what we were talking about with Scott Matlock. We don't need you to be one of the best in the league. We need an impact player, and we need a lot of those guys on this list. All right? Next up at number 7. Man, dude, I've been watching this guy, and I've been paying attention to some of the photos coming out, some of the articles, and I don't know what we have quite yet, but I think it's bigger than what I had given it credit for on draft night. Triquez Bridges, cornerback out of Florida, if I do recall. We could have something here. This kind of reminds me of Dean Leonard, which, again, kind of like the wide receiver position. It's getting a little crowded all of a sudden. We have guys, right? You got Dante Jackson in there. St. Just is part of the equation there now, too. I like Nico Reed a lot. He was one of the guys that didn't make this list that I was kind of hoping to make this list, but we can kind of lump him in here with Triquez Bridges a little bit, because I think Nico Reed's a fantastic undrafted free agent signing as well out of Oregon. But Bridges, this guy, again, like I said, reminds me a little bit of Dean Leonard a little bit in terms of he's got some crazy size on him, crazy speed for that size. Physicality feels really nice. Of course, there's a lot of things that he needs to work on in terms of technique and his development there. But man, does he have the pieces and the tools to work with here. He's like 6'2", almost 6'3". Got nice speed behind him, good strength for the position. Again, kind of like Rocket Sanders. He just feels like this premium archetype to try and coach up into something. And what happened, if you guys will recall, with Dean Leonard, is that he was more or less, a practice squad / depth piece for this team in terms of when he was drafted, and he turned into a really nice special teams player, which he's really excelled, and he's a nice piece of now for the Chargers unit there. I think Bridges has an opportunity to do something similar here. Again, kind of a crowded room, but if you guys take a look at our cornerback room, Bridges really does stand out. He's a big dude. He's got some nice traits behind him in man coverage. I think honestly, like, he could be one of those guys that kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh man, Triquez Bridges. Like, why were we all not looking at this 6'3" giant in the DB room, which is pretty crazy. Next up at number 6, this one's probably gonna shock a little bit of you guys out there. I don't think anybody has been talking about Trey Lance, the Chargers quarterback 3 or 4 right now. He's one of those practice squad guys fighting for a spot. I did see some stories about him a few weeks ago. They were trying to reflect the story, back in the past with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, and of course now you got Justin Herbert and Trey Lance. That's not happening. Let's just go ahead and put that out of the way now. There's nowhere near the reality of the situation with the Chargers. On the other hand, there is a quarterback 2 battle going on behind the scenes that nobody's really paying attention to. Right now, I would kind of assume, and I think a lot of us have assumed, that Heineke has been the one to really grab that role and run with it, and that it's pretty much, a done deal at that point. But no, I'm not quite convinced. The Chargers, they have a few guys in there. They also have the quarterback, because is a USC's quarterback. Forget his name, number 13. I remember being mad he took Keenan Allen's number. Other than that, they got him, they got Trey Lance, and the big reason I think Trey Lance is a sleeper for me is because of the Chargers effect lately, the Jim Harbaugh effect, the redemption arc in LA. You guys know what I'm talking about? Taylor Tart, who just got a nice contract from us. He was kind of, floating around for a while, team to team. Nobody really liked his work ethic. He had some talent, but maybe a little bit lazy. Couldn't quite bring it all together. He found a great season with the Chargers. He got an extension with us. Puna Ford, back end of his career. Everyone thought, maybe it's an okay depth signing. He pops off as a really nice contract offered to him from the Rams, and he's, again, a bounce-back player. And we saw a lot of that all over the roster last season. And a lot of contracts handed out, and that's probably the most proven part of this whole thing for me. It's like, it's not just speculation. You're seeing money. You're seeing contracts handed out because of the Chargers' bounce-back effect, if you want to call it that. And what better example than Trey Lance? Super high pick. right? Hugely bust potential, right? Or hugely labeled a bust throughout the league. And honestly, I get it. Like he has not panned out. He had a lot of opportunity. The Niners, for for G's sakes. I don't know what Trey Lance is anymore, and I don't think anybody does. But now that he's with the Chargers and the proven, background that he has as being such a high pick and largely labeled a bust because of the expectations on him, he's in an environment where a lot of players have bounced back and found new life. I wouldn't be too shocked if Trey Lance is actually, in the background somewhere, giving Heineke a run for his money. And again, I'm not rooting for one or the other. I want the best. I want the best QB2 on this team. I don't care if it's Lance. I don't care if it's Heineke. I don't care if it's the other guy. I just want the best for what's best for this team. And I think Trey Lance could sneakily be competing closer than we think for that QB2 position. So keep an eye on that. That's all I'm saying. In support of the Trey Lance narrative, the Chargers are really good at taking bust players, turning him back into relevant players. And I think Trey Lance is a really good example of that, and it could happen. All right? The Chargers are also really good at taking undrafted players and making them relevant. From Antonio Gates to Austin Eckler, this team just knows what they're looking for when it comes to undrafted guys. And Luke Grimm is one that I think's caught the eye of a few fans. Of course, we talked about him, I think, once or twice before when he was signed. And this is a really good piece in terms of, like Brendan Rice is going to have a bit of a longer road to make the roster just because it's a little bit crowded. But I do see a place for him right away. And it's kind of funny because of the comparison. Him and Ladd McConkey have a lot in common. I know it's not just because they're both white. It's because of the way that they play. All right? Very good route runners, very good hands, very good separation and speed. Luke Grimm, I think, for whatever reason, should have been drafted. I think that he's one of those players. I'm scratching my head. I'm like, why did he end up falling to us undrafted when he clearly has a lot working for him? And I did get to see him in person. BYU Kansas, watch that game. He had like 60, 70 yards on the Cougs that day. And man, I'll tell you, he's got some great route running behind him. Great separation. And I wouldn't be the least bit shocked if they consider him the Ladd McConkey light, backup down the line, or someone to elevate from the practice squad. But I like a lot of what I see from Luke Grimm, and I do think that he has every opportunity to display that talent and try to find a way onto the 53. And I think it's possible for him. I think it's more possible for him than it is Brendan Rice. But he shares a lot of traits with Ladd McConkey, which makes me think that he's a nice backup in the event that we would need that similar play from another player. So I'm going to put him at number 5. I feel pretty good about Luke Grimm. I think he's a nice sleeper move, a nice sleeper name, and one that could end up being somewhat of very good depth or an impact piece his first season. Next up, number 4. Andre Lambert Smith. This one, there's 2 names on this list where I'm like, are they really sleepers? I don't know. We've talked about him a few times. This is one of them. Because I think that at least I have been talking more about Keandre Lambert Smith than I thought I would. When we drafted him, I was like, okay, it felt like it was a bit of a reach. I don't think I had him for a few more rounds. But then you get looking into why the Chargers decided to take him when they did. And I think the speed is definitely the biggest part here. He's a very, very good wide receiver in the deep part of the field. And I think of all the wide receivers, because what would that be, 3 at this point? He has the best shot to make the 53. I think it's not certain, but I think it's pretty likely that he does because of what his skill set offers the position group that other players just simply do not have. Maybe Darius Davis a little bit, but his elite play at the deep part of the field, his deep receiving grade of what was a 98 point something is top of the charts. And that offers Justin Herbert a weapon that he doesn't otherwise have on this team. A weapon with premium speed, premium deep, getting open the deep part of the field skills, and just honestly that slasher, that weapon that really can push the ball downfield in an instant. And I think the Chargers have some plans for him. I really do. I think that not just as a depth piece this season, we need to bring in, KLS because we need, a Trey Harris replacement for a few, snaps here or there or whatever. I think that they have some plays that are going to be designed specifically for him to stretch the field, to try and get open, to try and create a big play opportunity. And he's going to be very good at it. I honestly think that we're going to be shocked at the impact that we see. Maybe not as consistently as the other receivers, but just having that weapon in your back pocket to throw in a situation where you need a weapon like that, I think he's honestly going to shock some folks. So I'm excited. KLS, you may see some special teams out of him, but I think for the most part, you're going to see some really nice speed out of him. He's going to be that missile that Justin Herbert is looking for to try and push the ball downfield. Next up at number 3. Now, I will say this guy's been getting some hype lately, and I think it's more from coaches. I don't know how much the fan base has been pushing him, but the coaches have really, really been excited about this guy, Steo Clots, tight end / fullback. And this is what I'm thinking with this guy. I have to throw it over to another storyline real quick to kind of get my point across, though. But I've been reading a lot about Scott Matlock and his involvement at fullback this season. More specifically, his involvement at defensive tackle. He has a lot of aspirations to put up some bigger numbers at DT this year. He played a majority of his season last year on offense. I think there's a want and a need to switch that. I think they're looking at Scott Matlock to have more work defensively than he did offensively this season. And I think in order to start picking up the slack there, you're going to see another name step into the limelight a little bit as another fullback tight end option. One that has definitely a bit more upside in terms of receiving. Steo Clots is certainly a big dude. He's definitely not too slow. But I see an opportunity with Clots for the Chargers to get maybe something in the line of their own Kyle Juszczyk. A utility back that's definitely a very good blocker, works in the system that they're looking for, but also can be utilized as a receiving weapon a little bit more than what Scott Matlock would. And maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe we're seeing more Scott Matlock being pushed to the defensive side of the football. I don't think he's going to be done. I think you're going to want to see him, in I form and in those power run plays that you're going to definitely be drawing up for Najee Harris and Amarian Hampton. But I think you're going to have a need for a guy that's a little faster and that can also be utilized as a receiver. And I think that's where Klotz is kind of stepping in and impressing a lot of people. He's had a really good offseason. Chargers fans are starting to hear the name, whispered, but more so the staff and the coach is very excited about this guy. So Steo Clots, watch out for him. I think we might have something here. Now, of course, I don't think he's Juszczyk. But I think we can use him in a similar way. And if the coaches are very excited about him, I'm very excited about him. All right. Last 2 players at number 2. Who could we possibly have? Another rookie, one that I was very excited about when we drafted him, RJ Mickens, safety, who I think recently switched to 27. I was looking everywhere for his previous number, which is 41, which is funny enough, same as Steo Clots. But I think he recently changed to 27 once Dobbins signed with the Broncos. Okay. Now, RJ Mickens is one of those guys that, again, like a few players on this list, I was gobsmacked was still available at the late end of the draft. He was a huge steal in my mind. And like I talked about with Justin Boygby, there being a lot of opportunity for him to step up and show what he's got and be an impact piece this season. I feel very strongly that RJ Mickens could be put in that same situation this season, where he's going to have opportunity. And that's because this team, of course, their premium piece on defense being Derwin James, our safety, he doesn't play safety exclusively. He is all over the field. And when he's playing, the X, or when he's playing in the box, or when he's playing in the nickel, someone's got to step into that safety role. And RJ Mickens, man, this dude was pretty good in coverage. He had pretty good athleticism. He had really nice instincts. Good hands, great, zone. I felt pretty good about Mickens. If he were handed, a few snaps a game to be that high safety while Derwin James is moving around, I feel like he would play exceptionally well. And between him and Elijah Molden and whoever else is competing for, spots at safety, Tony Jefferson or whatever, I think that room looks really good. And it's a very important position for this defense. How many safeties did we sign last season? Edmonds, who was the Bears guy? Jackson, of course, Molden, Jefferson. We brought in a ton of safeties. And I think RJ Mickens may be among the best of the backups, the rotational guys that we have in that room, which is exceptional. That room has a lot of talent. I think Mickens could really bring it this year. And I think, honestly, we're going to see him play. For a late round pick, I think we're going to see him play a lot more than any of us expect. Watch out for RJ Mickens, man. I'm very excited to see him. And then finally, I'll say this. I don't know how much of a sleeper this is, but man, my opinion on him has changed for the better. It's Aron Gadson. Aron Gadson, I had just done a video, I don't know, a week before OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I kind of gave a prediction of what I think we're going to get out of him this season. Now, I was very excited. I said, hey, guys, we may have a guy that, puts up 100 or 200 yards this year, maybe a touchdown or two, but flashes a whole lot and shows us that we got a guy that could potentially move in to that tight end 1 position in 2026. That opinion's changed a little bit. Aron Gadson has become that off-season diamond, that shining player that really has been standing out among the rest of the rookies, which is very surprising to me. I was very excited about Gadson. I think a lot of us understood that he had some really nice upside, but I did not expect to see it this soon. And it's because obviously the tight end position, in my opinion, can take some extra time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight for this position. Sometimes it takes until their second contract or they're even their second team. Lately, we've been seeing guys come in and contribute right away, and now I'm starting to think Gadson could end up being one of those guys. The Laportas and the Kincaids and of course the Bowers. Like, those guys are exceptional, top of the top, but they were big contributors to rookie season. I'm thinking Aron Gadson could end up being a bigger contributor this season. Again, I was expecting 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Now, with what I'm seeing, the connection, the chemistry between him and Justin Herbert, the availability, the talent, the speed, the hands, the route running, the utilization at receiver, I'm starting to think we're looking more at like a 500 or 600 yard tight end with a ceiling of closer to like 800, 900 yards. Isn't that nuts? I don't know. Again, ceiling, don't even think about that for this season. I don't want to put that expectation on him. If he were to hit 400 yards, it's a tremendous victory. 500 yards would be incredible. And these are, I think, similar numbers to guys like George, oh my gosh, from the Niners, and Mark Andrews. I think these guys could certainly find, or those guys in their rookie seasons were in and around the same realm. Aron Gadson's starting to feel like that. And those guys are also mid-round picks. Gadson, he really is starting to stand out as a big target for Justin Herbert, maybe even a favorite target for Justin Herbert. And I think they're going to have a hard time keeping him off the field. So the reason he's number 1 on this list for me is because I think I was wrong in a good way. I don't think we're going to see a 100 or 200 yard season for Gadson. I think you're going to see a bit more than that. And I think you're going to see between him and Conklin some nice involvement from the tight end position this year in terms of receiving, and perhaps we'll get our first look at who our tight end one's going to be next year in Aron Gadson, who could end up being, the next big thing at tight end from a mid, draft position standpoint. I like it. I like it a lot. Aron Gadson, number 1 on this list. You guys let me know what you think in the comments section below. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and keep your eye out for Gadson, man. I think he's going to be one of the fun players to catch in training camp this season.